All right, so in this one, we are going to create a couple mix-ins to make sure our variation list view is not able to be seen by anyone that's not logged in or not a staff member. So let's go ahead and create a brand new file, a Python module that we're going to call mixins.py. So the mixins are going to work with our class-based views, and they work very, very well. So the first thing that I want to import is from django.contrib.auth.decorators import login required, and then from django.utils.decorators import method decorator, and then also from Django contrib, so from django.contrib.admin.views.decorators import staff member required. So these two decorators are going to allow us to have our functions work a little bit better. I'm also going to do from django.http import http 404. So the first one, I'm going to say class staff required mixin, and it's going to take in just an object, a Python object. It's not actually inheriting from anybody or anything, that is. And we're going to add a class method decorator on top, and we're going to define it as view. So we're going to override the view method, and it's going to be self, and we'll do args and keyword args. And first off, the view would be view equals to super and staff required mixin with self. And then we'll do dot as view and args and keyword args. Of course, it should look very, very similar as we've seen before. In this case, we're just going to do return, and it's going to be staff member required, and we're going to add in the view. So we're wrapping the view in this staff member required. And then finally, we're going to do at method decorator login required. So this is for the dispatch method. So we'll do define dispatch, and it's going to take in self request, and then args and keyword args. And we'll say if request.user.isStaff, we're going to return super staff required mixin self, and then we'll just do dispatch. Of course, request args and keyword args. If not, we will raise HTTP 404. So now that we have this, we might as well do the exact same thing, but for login required. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, paste it right below, and we'll do login required mixin, and just change this all around to login required. And this should say login required. And in this case, all we need to do is we can get rid of is staff. There we go. Okay, so now we've got these couple of mixins. So I'm going to copy this mixin, and we want to import it into our view. So from mixin.mixins, import staff required mixin. If I grab this and put it in front of our list view, it's going to require the staff to be the ones that actually can go in here. So back into Chrome, into our inventory, let's make sure the server is running. We see that we can actually see this if I log out and try and go into that product again. So we'll go into products, one, and then finally inventory. It forces me to go to the Django admin, which is what staff required does. Now what login required does is, if we use the login required mixin and replace that, come back in here, and we'll say inventory. That will require just a login that way. Cool. So let's go ahead and get rid of the login required and leave it in as staff required, which is pretty important for us as far as staff required is concerned. Now something you might be like, well, maybe I don't want them to be forced to go into the staff member required function. Maybe that's not something I want to see, but instead I'd rather have it when it's dispatched to raise HTTP 404 one way or another. So we'll just say a login required here. So now it's not going to send them to the Django admin. Instead, it's going to say that they have to log in, and then it's going to request whether or not there's staff when it's actually being dispatched. So let's take a look at it now. And we'll go back into products 1, inventory. And now it's saying log in. If I log in as a regular user, it logs me in, or as a staff user, it logs me in. So to change what a user is, we go into users, and we go in here, and we can change all of this stuff. So staff status is essentially what we're saying here when we do this right here, request staff, and then this staff member required, that's the decorator that forces it into the admin to authenticate that way. I actually prefer this method because we don't necessarily want to give away where our Django admin login is if we decide to change where it is in our URLs to like DJ hide admin or something like that. You might do that or you might not. It's really up to you. Or if our admin is just simply not activated. If you don't have your admin activated, this is another way to make it a little bit more dynamic on how you're going to do this. And the last thing would be if we changed our user model and we wanted to have something different here, we could do all sorts of things here. We could change it to being based off of a completely different model. All right, so if you have any questions on this, let us know. Otherwise, let's keep going.